Yeah, apparently I did. It came with my crowd strike. Hey, I'm Obi That Said, and we are your favorite podcast about nothing. Get us wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google. We're there. You can download us, listen to us, like us, follow us, subscribe, all that stuff. Also, check us out on gardenhose.vercel.app, our wonderful webpage. Join our community, leave comments, get to know us. We'll get to know you. Ed, how are you?
Obi, I am doing well today. I got a few things on my mind, but the first thing I want to jump into is got some really good feedback in the last 2 weeks on the webpage. You just mentioned it. People should go there, check it out. But I mean, for someone to put in writing that these are two of the finest minds in contemporary podcasting, I mean, come on, that's some of the greatest feedback you'll ever get. And then let's not forget this piece of this gem, which is somebody thought they heard your brain fart after I said a funny line in our last Hawk Tua. So somebody thought they actually heard your brain fart and that you were rendered speechless, and they thought that the podcast was going to end because you had nothing else to say. So I think we're getting some great feedback there. It jazzes me up. The latest episode is one of the fastest growing listening episodes we've had. And that is with you dropping it at the worst possible time. So usually our episodes drop Friday morning at 6 a.m. when nothing's going on. But instead, Obi, you decided to drop the latest episode at the same exact effing time that Joe Biden decided to drop out of the presidential race. And we still are going gangbusters.
Let me tell you, I scheduled it for that morning, and we had some people over at my house, and one of the people was a very young girl, 13 years old, and she kind of said, "Oh, Joe Biden dropped out of the race according to what I just read." And one of the other adults goes, "Oh no, honey, this afternoon that must be a fake story." But while one of the adults is telling her she's wrong, there's a condescending her almost, if you will. I look it up on my phone and I go, "Oh no, she's right. This just happened." And so then they all started talking, and I was like, "Nah, I don't really want to have this conversation right now." So I'm going to look to see, what picture you put on the website for our post, and it's not there. So I came running into my office here and dropped it. You're right then. I was like, "Oh, we gotta get this out there."
You think I was making it up? I mean, I know my motto is never let the truth get in the way of a good story, but you literally dropped it at the same time the announcement went out.
Yeah, absolutely. I found out that happened. It was like, let me check on the podcast because I don't want to have a political conversation while I'm eating right now.
So
And
instead, you wanted to say to the 13-year-old girl, "What do you think of Hawk Tua?"
I did not bring that up with her. No, that was not appropriate. But I was like, "Oh, let me see what." Literally, I was like, "Oh well," because my thought was, "Well, Hawk Tua is definitely out of the news now." And so I was like, "Let me see how this." Like I was like, "Well, let's check on the podcast." I was like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah. So usually you do a news dump on Friday afternoon because no one can pick the shit up. But I'm telling you, yesterday at like 1:45 was a great time. So yesterday we're taping this on a Monday, but Sunday 1:45 would be a great time for a news dump. If you don't want anybody to know what you're talking about, drop it then. So that's when you decided let's put our latest podcast, our bonus episode that nobody was expecting. You snuck attack everybody with it, and I'm telling you, it's the fastest. I guess it's not growing because podcasts don't grow, but it's the fastest downloaded episode we've had in a while. So I don't know. I think we struck a chord there, or people were doing what you did, was just trying to like, let's not talk politics. Let's just go do something stupid and let's listen to these two idiots talk about a month-old viral sensation.
This has been a big month for our show. No doubt about it. Historically one of the biggest months. We have been steadily growing downloads this year. We've had a very good year, steady growth. Like you said, maybe there's something about making it to that 3-year mark. We're grabbing people. People are starting to listen, and we are two of the best minds in contemporary podcasting, which blew my mind. You talk about my mind farting. I read that. I was like, wow. Wow. I was taken aback. Very happy. Thank you. You know who you are. Might have to send that person a gift or something.
Well, they just want us to show up at one of their barbecues. So what that individual needs to know, if you invite me to your barbecue and you have beer there, I'll probably show up.
Yeah. Well,
it's not that hard.
No,
I'm not that famous.
No. Yeah. We're coming. We're going. We're having beers, and yeah. Speaking of beers, I went out. So you like to make fun of my sword fighting group, but
no, not the group. I don't need a bunch of guys who use swords in fights to be mad at me. No, it's just you I like to make fun of. Let's get that straight.
So Thursday night after practice, we're in Philly, and we all go to one of the guys' house and sit on his sidewalk and enjoy a few adult beverages, if you will. And you talk about a guy who didn't care that we had swords. We almost got into a fight with a tow truck driver. It was touch and go there.
Now, did the tow truck driver? First of all, I want to know why you almost got. But did the tow truck driver not see your swords? Did you keep your swords in your pants so he didn't know you had your swords? So what happened there?
All right, so the guy whose house it is, he across the street from him there is a no parking zone, and there was a car. The front tire was clearly in the yellow, so the front car was clearly parked illegally, and the tow truck driver came down the street, saw it, and I can't remember the name of the company, but apparently if you're from Philly, this company has a reputation for skirting the law about how they tow cars. So this fella who I'm friends with says to the tow truck driver, "Yo, you cannot tow that car until it gets a ticket. That's the law. You know that. I know that. Let's do this the right way." And this escalated quickly. Now, I don't know what this tow truck driver did or did not see, but along the fence is everybody's swords, and everybody's swords are essentially in what looks like a rifle bag. Like, if you know anything, it looks like a bag that, even if you don't, if you've ever seen a movie, you've seen a guy with a rifle, this is what these bags look like. They hold our swords. And this tow truck driver and my buddy, they started arguing a ridiculous amounts.
Now, how close to the fence were you? You say your swords are hanging on a fence.
So
how close to this fence are you?
So it's a sidewalk. So I don't know how the laws work in Philadelphia, whether this sidewalk is this guy's property, but you have a walking sidewalk and then like a driveway sidewalk. So what is that? 10 feet, maybe a 5 foot in the five, like just a double, like a typical sidewalk type situation, but big enough to, a city sidewalk. You have a place where you can walk, and then the grass, and then the street. So the fence was on the one side, and the guy was in the street, talking to my buddy who was sitting on his chair that was on the second row of sidewalk. I hope I'm making sense, with a.
No, you're not. I have no freaking clue, dude. The question is, was your buddy sitting in front of the goddamn fence that had the swords hanging on it, or was he sitting away from the fence and you would have to like turn your head to the left or to the right to see that fence?
No, so he was sitting away from the fence, but me and a couple other guys were sitting along the fence, and then next to us were the sword bags.
Okay, so the guy arguing was not in front of the sword bags, but the guys who were watching the argument were in front of the sword bags.
And we were obviously with this dude. Like, we were obviously, while this argument's going on, we're sharing beers with our buddy. We're talking about the pizza that's coming back. Somebody else comes back. Like, and our numbers are growing.
While the argument's going on.
While the numbers.
Do you think this tow truck driver didn't realize they were rifle bags and sword bags? That maybe they were just shoulder purses?
I think he didn't see them. I think he was so angry and wanting to start and like my friend. I'm not going to say he was out of line, but he didn't need. But he certainly took up the cause greater than he needed to do. But this tow truck driver was not going to let it go afterwards.
So I have one other question for you. As I look at your background and I see the Death Star and I see a silhouette of Darth Vader, do you think this guy might have thought they were your lightsaber bags?
He might have, although that's not what they look like. And now I need to feel like I need to get it to prove to you. It looks like a rifle bag.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because if you go to Disney World, where I was a month ago, you see all, I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars guy, but I'll call them nerds, walking around with their lightsabers that they buy. Now, the crazy thing about a lightsaber in real life is it's not like a handheld thing. It's like a big freaking thing, you know? And then they get back on the plane with them and they're like 6 feet long or whatever. So that's why I was just wondering, maybe you thought you had your lightsaber bags with you.
Maybe, possibly. I mean, it's conceivable. I think he just didn't see the row of like 7 spaces. They're not literally right. I think they're slightly, but if you see them, my first thought, the first time I saw them was, did you buy us rifle bags to keep our swords in? And then, no, they're not. They're slightly different shapes.
So I have 2 thoughts going through my head right now. One is that the tow truck driver is probably just, I mean, to be a tow truck driver in Philly, one that does towing of illegally parked cars, you gotta probably be a little twisted, right? Because you're gonna get into a lot of shit, right? So that's one. He probably does repos on the side too, right? Because those guys are dealing with shit all the time. There's that, but then there's the other is that maybe he absolutely knew they were swords, but he, like me, it's like, what the hell are you gonna do with your swords?
I think the biggest thing was, although we were backing my friend up, we were not like standing up behind him like we were ready to go.
And you definitely didn't have your swords.
And we definitely didn't have our swords out. So I wonder if he saw them just like, they're going to let their buddy go. Like, it was one of those situations where, you know, when your friend's pushing it a little too far, even like, yeah, it's like, I mean, he's like you, Ed. I mean, like, in the way, like, Ed, you probably didn't need to say that. You weren't wrong, but you didn't need to approach it that way. So I'm going to let you handle your shit kind of situation. Like, but still, my friend wasn't wrong. He's like, yo, just wait. And the guy's like, and the tow truck driver, like you said, I think it's not his first rodeo. Because the other thing is, he was working. His tow truck has the company name on it. And they start filming each other.
Nice.
And it was like, you're at work. He had no concern that he was at work. Like, you know what I mean? This was like acceptable behavior for his on the job life.
It could have been his name on the tow truck too, so he doesn't give a shit. Because when you call to complain to the boss, it's going to be him answering the phone.
It wasn't. At one point, there was a moment where it looked like peace was going to be extended. And he introduced himself and gave his name. Like, he got it. He actually, the tow truck driver did throw out a full, like, let's just be done with this. And then my buddy was like, nice to meet you, but let me tell you what you guys did to me. The other thing, my guy had a grudge against this company.
Well, right, that's where I was going to go with this. It doesn't even sound like this was his car.
No, not his car.
And he doesn't even know the person. It wasn't one of the sword guys. It was just a random car, but he's pissed at the company, so he took up an argument with the guy. He did. He don't like the company.
He don't like the company. But he also wasn't wrong. Like, the rule is, and then when he says, yo, dude, don't tow that car yet. You got to wait for the ticket. That's what he said to the guy that started the whole thing. And then, but then it gets better. Because now the tow truck's away. We're still out there. We're drinking our beers. We're eating our pizza. We're messing around. And now, who shows up, of course, after the car's gone? But the guy whose car was towed.
Oh, the car did get towed.
The car did get towed. Eventually, the parking authority came, gave the car a ticket. That dude picked that car out and pulled it up in 30 seconds. Like, boom.
Well, because they get paid for it, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's how they make money, just stealing people's cars,
Yeah,
basically,
they get
right?
like $175 towing fee, $25 a night, plus they collect half the, like, they get paid for that. That's why they're doing it. So the guy whose car gets towed was there. So my buddy now, because he's the good Samaritan, he's like, yo, man, I tried. I tried to slow it down. I tried to slow down the process. Your car was towed. It wasn't stolen. The number you called is right over there. These guys are a bunch of jack. I mean, he's going off on the tow. He's trying to support the guy whose car got towed. And he was doing it in the nicest way. You know, here's the company. Like, I've dealt with them the whole nine. That guy now whose car was stolen. Now he's angry at my friend. This was crazy because my buddy, like, here, he was really just trying to help. And this guy's taking a picture of every other car on the street, which were legally parked. It was just crazy. He just kept going and going.
So the guy whose car got towed got mad at your buddy?
Lost his mind. Shut up. This is none of your business. I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Excuse me, not cursing on the show. What the fuck you're doing? Shut the fuck up. This is none of your business. Just going off on him. My guy's trying to help him get the car back as quickly as possible. He's like, it's not midnight yet. They're open till 11:30. You can get in there and hurry up, call a friend, get an Uber, get over there, save yourself 25. Oh, trying to help this guy out. Shut the fuck up. The car wasn't illegally parked.
So there's a moral in this story. You know that, right?
Don't fucking help people out.
Just keep your mouth shut, dude. Drink your beer, eat your pizza, and keep your mouth shut. Especially if you're going to keep your sword in your bag. I mean, if you're going to keep your sword in your bag, keep your mouth shut. That's rule number one of sword play, isn't it?
I think so. I think next time we need to take our swords out and leave the swords.
Yes. If you take your swords out, then you can talk all you want. But if your swords are in your bag, you got to shut up until it comes out of your bag. That's like the moral of the story.
You know what's even more interesting is I think back on this. There was a period of time where the swords came out in between the two incidents, the car being towed and the guy whose car was towed arriving. We did take out our swords to practice some stuff.
Oh my God. So you're admitting to having sword play on a public sidewalk in Philadelphia?
These were non-metal swords.
So wait a second.
If I hit you in the head with the sword, it would kill you, but it was a non-metal sword.
So now you're telling me that the tow truck driver should have been intimidated by a bag full of wooden swords?
No, I'm telling you, the swords we took out were wooden.
So you have multiple swords in your bag?
Yes. I have
multiple wooden swords and metal swords.
And bamboo swords. I got the whole lot.
Okay, so you got, but the fact remains that you guys are eating pizza, drinking beer, had a spat with a tow truck operator, car gets towed, and someone's like, you know what? Now would be a good time to take the swords out and play with them.
Not play with them, practice with them.
Yeah. You say practice, I say play with them. Either way, you took the swords out when the tow truck driver was gone.
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Well, you guys have your priorities straight. So, Obi.
Yes.
I gotta ask you something. Have you seen the new Beverly Hills Cop movie?
I have seen the new Beverly Hills Cop movie.
All right, so we got to talk about this just a little bit. Not necessarily about the movie, but we did talk about Roadhouse a few episodes ago, which was a remake of. So interestingly enough, Roadhouse was a remake of the original. It wasn't like a sequel of Roadhouse with different. It was a remake, right?
Right.
You could make an argument that Star Wars, the latest trilogy with Rey and all those, was kind of a remake of the original Star Wars. Plot lines kind of follow, right?
You're right.
So Beverly Hills Cop is really Beverly Hills Cop 4. They didn't call it that. They call it X, but it's really 4 because it's the same characters. It's not a reboot. It's not like Spider-Man where they just freaking decide to make the movie again with a different Spider-Man. And I loved it. And I realized why I loved it. And I think I will take any movie that does this. Just give me the original characters. I don't even care if it's the same freaking plot as the one that was 30 years old. Nostalgia is a powerful tool, my friend. And I will eat up Any movie that was made in the 80s and early 90s, I'll watch it. You make it, I don't care. I'll watch it again.
So I do not know what, because now the nostalgia market is for me, right? Like you are
Yeah.
right. So I don't know if this is the largest movie nostalgia market ever or what, but we had, yeah, forget the Star Wars franchise. There's Roadhouse, Axel, and Twisters.
Oh yeah, I got to go see that now because that's coming out.
But back to Axel F. I mean, it was the same characters. I don't even remember if it was the same exact plot, but it was the same soundtrack.
Oh, that was what was awesome. That was awesome.
That was the boomingest part. You're right. That was the best part. Give me
Neutron
dance 100,000 times a day.
When was the last time you heard Neutron Dance?
Oh my goodness, it was great. Axel F and Neutron Dance is playing throughout the entire movie. It was phenomenal.
And Glenn Fry, the heat is on. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I don't even know what was going on the screen because the music was the key to that movie being enjoyable. Absolutely. Like they hit nostalgia and they threw in the music to make sure you're like, this is the movie. This is what's going on. That's it. It was fantastic.
I loved it.
I loved it too. I did too. And I know you posted about it on the social, and you got lukewarm response to it. I loved it. I agree with you 100%. I loved it.
No, here's what I think happened on the lukewarm response to social. I don't think anybody's willing to admit that they loved it.
Well, because it's probably a bad movie. Like
I wouldn't know. We'd have to ask a 20-year-old that never saw the first one. Right. It's a good movie. But I'll tell you what. I'll pull my sword out of my bag if you try to tell me Axel F wasn't a good movie, if you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. Please keep your sword in your bag.
I will take it out, Obi. That was a good movie, damn it. So the nostalgia factor is strong, and I hope, and I know maybe that's why it went straight to Netflix because they're never. But Top Gun, Maverick, same freaking movie as the first one. But I loved it. I'm there for it. And if they want to make a Top Gun Maverick 2, I'm going to watch that one too.
Another one. You're right. And it wasn't the same plot. It was actually the plot to Star Wars. Do a trench run, perfect shot, nobody can hit. But
yeah.
Like I love that part. It's like, oh, damn, speaking of nostalgia, how about some Star Wars? Like that's really what it felt like. We can make that shot. But it was another good one. But yeah, I don't know if. So I'm going to turn left here out of nowhere, but part of nostalgia almost. Because like I said, I don't know if nostalgia is new or it's just nostalgia boom because it's made for me, like my nostalgia. But we talk a lot about music on this show. And very recently I learned that Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot is a cover.
Holy shit. You didn't know that?
I did not know that. No, I did not know that ever. I just recently learned that. Yeah.
Slade was the original.
Yeah. You're 100% correct. I learned that because the whole thing, Quiet Riot, loudest band in America, Come On Feel the Noise. I thought it was an original song about how loud they were.
Well, again, that song came out in like early 80s. We were like 10 or 11 years old. So how would we know that there was one out before that, right?
Yes.
But yes, obviously it's the most famous version. Yeah. And but so here's the other thing. If you were to remake songs like that today, and again, here's the problem with musical artists. They always try to remake songs like different, like in the own vein. They got to learn about nostalgia. They should just remake the same song the same way it was played originally. And people will go crazy for it. I mean, shit, isn't that what Taylor Swift is doing? She's remaking her songs, only 5 years old, and she's remaking them and everyone's going crazy over it. So she can get the publishing right. I mean, there's a business reason for that, but it speaks to, well, probably doesn't speak to, I'm just using an analogy there, but I think nostalgia is one of the strongest drugs in the world.
I agree that it is now. I don't know about your cover thing because I always like somebody's own take. I find that if I can't differentiate, like they just did within the last 5 years, someone covered Toto Africa, and I was like, it sounds exactly like the
original. Was Weezer, right?
Yes, it was Weezer. Yes.
Sounded just like it, right?
It sounds just like it. I mean,
The
which is
problem is that song kind of blew though to begin with, so I don't really need to hear it again. You know what I'm saying? Now, how come somebody can't do Eye of the Tiger, right? Why can't we get that remade?
well because why wasn't that movie in every Rocky Balboa thing that came after, and then Creed? That should have been the song for Creed as well. But
So Creed, there's another movie that was in. So Creed was its own movie, right? But he was smart. The guy, Michael B. Jordan, he put Rocky Balboa in it to make the nostalgia piece. You got to have
yes,
a bit of nostalgia. 21 Jump Street. They had the original 21 Jump, even though they did a comedy, they had the original 21 Jump
well,
Street
they
guys.
do a lot of those hour-long television shows into comedy movies. Miami Vice, although I think Miami Vice wasn't a comedy.
No, but it still was a damn good movie because of the nostalgia.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm trying to like. That's a better. Hopefully, your parents, who I know are avid listeners, will catch this episode, and they can tell us if there was a period of time when everything was being made for them at an older age as nostalgia. Because I don't know that this nostalgia run is unique or not.
Well, we'll find out, but I gotta think it's unique because for that group, I mean, as soon as they put the shit in color, they got screwed up. They're like, oh, I don't remember this. Everything I remember was in black and white, you know?
Right, but take everything that was in black and white that you loved and do it in color. I
I don't
mean,
know.
there
I
there,
don't
there are some movies like the one that Lady Gaga did with just recently with the song "Shallows" in it. That A Star Is Born. That was
Star
like
is
the
Born.
fifth
Uh,
version of that movie.
yeah, see, certain movies see I so oh, this is a really good point here. Is there's been a lot of movies remade. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory's been remade, rebooted, not sequels, but rebooted 3 times, right? Or
Right,
twice. Like they had the Timothy Chalamet guy and they had Johnny Depp, right?
right.
But I don't because I think Willy Wonka came out before that sweet spot, 80s, early 90s. I don't care. I could care less about the Willy Wonka remakes. Great movie, by the way. Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder, great movie. Lots of pop cultural references, Veruca Salt, and all that crazy stuff. But did anyone get really nostalgia about it?
No, but I think I wonder like that was a complete remake in a way that is interesting because no, I did not feel any nostalgia about that at all. Um, and with the Johnny Depp one, and then the Timothy Chalamet one is a prequel, but that's a whole different thing. I did not feel nostalgia about that. But what about Barbie? Was Barbie a nostalgia drug, or was there something else going on there?
Well, I think Barbie had a ultimate uh, chemical mix there. They had the nostalgia, not that it's nostalgia from a movie, but nostalgia having grown up playing with those. Not for me, but for the people who did. And then you had the girl power thing, right? So you had like a double dose. You had the nostalgia for the ladies who played with Barbies growing up and the young men that used to play with Barbies. And then you had the girl power part. So I think it had a double dose, which is why it was so freaking popular.
I'm just going to go one step further. I don't think that whether you were a boy who played with Barbies or not, as a boy, you still knew about Barbie. Like Barbie was part of the lexicon of what
Sure.
was going on. I don't even think that you had to played with them. You just knew they were there. And every guy saw one Barbie doll or two along the way as they were growing up because you had a friend who was a girl or a sister or whatever. So, you're like, what's this underneath here? Oh,
So
Barbie.
there was that, but there's another movie that just popped into my head that didn't. Well, first of all, I didn't see it, but Fall Guy, that was a TV show. I missed that in the theater, so I'm gonna have to catch that on the nostalgia side. But there was Jurassic Park. They've remade that a million times, right? And I think they even rebooted it. But the nostalgia didn't hit with Jurassic Park. A little bit,
So I
but
think
not the same way as like the comedy.
Yeah, so I think like the Jurassic Parks, the Star Wars, even one of the ones you said earlier, Rocky, those are not as nostalgic because they're still just continuing the Transformers movies. They're still just building and building. They're not going and saying this was a thing in the moment of the 80s, and now we're going to take it out. Because you're right, even the Fall Guys, a little nostalgic, it's also a little almost 70s. Like the A-Team movie, that I went and saw.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because that was like the A-Team. I know it's going to be different. What are they going to do with this? Like, I wanted the second A-Team. I love that movie. I love
Damn
that
right.
shit.
They should make another one.
Absolutely. That was the best. He's flying the tank. I love that movie.
Yeah, because it's so stupid. Just
You're
like
right.
the original show was stupid.
Yes, yes.
But I watched it all the time.
So so that's why like there's a fine line though too, right? Because you're right, like the Fall Guy maybe is a little too old. There's going to be again. I think you're right. I think Willy Wonka's too old because it was one movie and we watched it again and again and again and again and again. Like we memorized that thing. Those people who love that movie.
So I'm going to go in a different direction on nostalgia and trying to recapture it. And there's two examples of it that it probably didn't work out really well. And then I want to tie it into a little bit of a, maybe not a tribute, but something I thought was interesting. So 90210 and Melrose Place. Both of those TV shows got remade at a later date with a new cast, but it was the same title, same premise, but a little different.
Okay.
Now, but the nostalgia wasn't there, but I watched it, but those shows sucked because it just wasn't the same. But if you bring in the old characters to like kind of hand it off, then you're onto something.
You're 100% right, especially those shows, because those shows, those casts, especially 90210, I didn't even watch that show, and I knew everything that was going on, and I knew all the actors and actors. That show was embedded. So when you take it out and you're like, I'm going to remake 90210, and it's like, yeah, but the characters aren't there. It's not them.
So that's where I wanted to go. So you didn't watch 90210. It's just really interesting because in college, 90210 was a phenomenon. Like there were bars that had watch parties. Like you could go to a bar and watch 90210 at the bar.
I know some of our brothers watched 90210 while I was in the house. They'd go and they go watch it. Like, that's not
well, I was one of them because that was a thing. That was appointment TV. And there was a text that went around this weekend about Shannon Doherty passing away. And there was a little bit of like a text moment of silence amongst me and a couple people about, wow, like mortality hits you. Like we grew up watching this show. She was our age and now she's dead. And what does that mean? And, one of the guys was expanding. She got a bad rap. She really wasn't that bad of a person. I'm not really sure about that. But to which I said she should have been in Playboy and probably would have made her go over better. And then that was pointed out to me that she was in Playboy twice. And I guess I missed those issues. But so I think nostalgia is a big thing, Obi.
It is. Yeah, it is. But you know what? So the question will still go out to everybody listening. Are we in a particular point in time where nostalgia is hitting extra hard because of our age for Ed and I? And there's always been this much remake and trying to pull back? Or is there a new breed of attempting to grab nostalgia and profit off it? And that happens to be for folks Ed's age and my age, and us Gen Xers. So that's my question for you out there.
And before you tell everyone we suck, I gotta bring one other thing up.
Oh boy, I was just gonna say we suck this time.
No, I'm not gonna bring one other. It's not gonna bring up a long thing, but real quick, one of the great things about that Beverly Hills Cop movie and Roadhouse, for that matter, is that it was streamed. I sat in my living room and I watched it. I don't know about you, but this going to the movie theater, it's too much work these days. I feel bad for the movie theaters because COVID got me out of that habit. Not that I went a lot, but I have no need to go to a movie theater ever again, Obi.
So my wife is on board with you 150%. My kids are starting to go back. So I don't know if it's an age thing or not. I do know that there is a movie that I will be going to the theater for this weekend, as a matter of fact.
That's Twisters. You're going to see Twisters?
No, I am going to go see Deadpool. So no nostalgia. I'm going to try to catch Deadpool 3 in the theater. But yeah, definitely I mean, I don't know if I think between COVID and the Marvel movies starting to go downhill simultaneously, and then streaming being so easy, like there are movies that like get hyped. Then it turns out they suck, but they're free on streaming, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch it anyway. Like Argyle, for anyone who like, I was like, oh, this is getting a lot of hype, and then it's like everyone's like, oh, this movie sucks. And then I sat down and I watched it, and I made it all the way through, going, why am I still watching this? This movie is horrible. Why am I still watching it? But I watched the whole thing because it was free and it was streaming, and then what else was I going to do on that day? So yeah, streaming plays a role in this, and there's a whole conversation around streaming now and commercials, and of course movie theaters are going down. You gave us everything for free on streaming, now you're trying to take it away. We're going to rebel. I don't know, just watching like 4 TikToks on that just this week. So Ed, you may be hitting up on our next subject.
All right.
Yeah, because we are always a little behind the most important subject because we're old and we suck, and the charm is that we suck. I'm Obi. That said, catch us in a couple of weeks on our next episode of Drinking from the Garden.